welcome back to FordeeTV. I'm your host, Fordee. So today we are in After Effects, baby. Part 5 of After Effects for beginners. I was going to do today's video on effects. However, I've decided to do it on animation and animation presets. And I figured it made more sense to insert that before we got into effects. I apologize for taking a little bit of time before we came out with part 5. It's because I haven't been sleeping the last few weeks, and it's really made work difficult, and I figured if I'm going to make a coherent video, I need my wits about me. Last night's the first night I had over 6 hours of sleep, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't so spotty. I've decided to cut out coffee. I think I drink way too much espresso, over 6 a day usually, and it's probably not healthy, right? But also, I'm pretty sure that's part of my problem with sleep. It's just been building up into my system, or at least hopefully this is the fix, huh? Anyways, without further ado, let's jump into the video. I'm inside After Effects. I have a whoosh sound effect loaded, but other than that, nothing. We'll get back to that later, huh? So let's go ahead and create a new composition. I'll click on the new comp icon here, and under the composition name, comp 1 is just fine. Sorry, I'm taking a sip of water because my throat is a little scratchy, huh? Anyways, 1920 by 1080, the resolution, square pixels, 30 frames a second, 10 seconds long is just fine. I'll go ahead and say okay, right? So let's animate something. I'm going to go ahead and create a text layer by clicking on the T up here, going ahead, clicking in the composition and typing in FordeeTV, right? I'll click on the arrow to unselect that, and I'll move it over here, maybe in the center, right? In fact, I could go over here to my align pane and then click on vertical alignment, right? Next, I'm going to come down here into my layers tab, click on FordeeTV, and press P for position. This way we can animate the position of the text, huh? Anywhere you see a stopwatch inside After Effects means you can animate that property, right? So if our playhead is at 0 and we click on that stopwatch, it's going to create a keyframe at frame 0, and we are going to be able to make a change to this property for in this particular example, position. If we change or move our playhead somewhere else in time, it doesn't matter if it's the very next frame or if it's over here at 6 seconds or wherever it is. If we move the playhead somewhere other than where this keyframe is, and then we change the position, we can do this by clicking right here in the layer, or by using the select tool, pressing shift to constrain the motion to bring it down. Boom, we have now created another keyframe, and the reason for that is because we made a change to a layer that we had already set a keyframe for. Now you'll notice over here, this little blue button blue diamond means we're on a keyframe. If we move this over, you'll notice it is not highlighted anymore. But that means also we could click on this button to create a keyframe. Now, this keyframe is the value of this place in time. So you'll notice nothing changed, right? So I'm going to press Command Z to undo that. Now, if I drag my playhead over here, you're going to notice that the text basically moves from top to bottom. You'll also notice this line, this dotted line right here. This is the motion path of the text. You'll also notice that if I click, there is a Bezier handle here, right? So I could go ahead now and show you this animation, and you'll see it's following this motion path because I've changed it by moving that Bezier handle, right? I can move it in the other direction as well, and this will change the path that it takes from point A to point B, right? I'll press Command Z a couple times to undo. Next, in order to navigate once you have keyframes in your timeline, if I'm dragging this playhead, I could come here and be like, am I on this? It's not snapping, right? If you want it to snap, just press Shift on your keyboard and it will automatically snap when you get close to that keyframe, and boom, you'll know you're on it. You could see over here for verification if you wanted to make a change to this property. So for example, if we wanted to move the text to the right, we could just drag this over. Now you'll notice the motion path updated to show us that change. If we drag our playhead, we can see that the text is going to animate in this direction, right? So there's a bunch of different options for keyframes. If we highlight a keyframe and we right click on it, you're going to see that we have a Keyframe Assistant down here. But before we get to the Keyframe Assistant, you'll notice some other things. Number one, this shows you the value of this particular keyframe. We're at 593.3 pixels for the X, and for the Y, we're at 904 pixels. Keep in mind this value is based on where your anchor point is, right? So the anchor point is on the left side of the F, or the first letter of our text. We could change where the anchor point is, right? So if we come over here to the pan behind tool, select it, we can then move the anchor point, for example, to the middle of the text. And now if you watch this, it's going to change the animation because it's animating based on where that anchor point is. So obviously that's important to know. I'm going to press Command Z to undo. I'm going to right click on this keyframe right here, and we'll say you can go to keyframe time. So for example, if we did that right now, nothing changes because we are already at this keyframe's time. If we right click on this keyframe over here and say go to keyframe time, it will move the playhead to wherever that keyframe was in time. Again, if we want to, for example, right now we're at this point right here. If we want to copy a keyframe, we can press Command C for copy and or Control C on a PC, and we can move our playhead somewhere over here and press Command V to paste it. And now it's going to make an animation from top, go up, go down, right? It's going from this starting point to this point and going back to where that starting point is, right? Next, if we right click on one of these keyframes and come back here, you'll notice that, for example, select equal keyframes. Right here, this is the same value as this keyframe over here. It's not just that they're both position keyframes. It's that they're both position keyframes with a value of 403.3 for X and 446 for Y. Now, if we select this keyframe right here and we right click and we say select equal keyframes, there are no other equal keyframes because these other two keyframes have different values. Now, if we came over here, selected this keyframe, and we just made this 447, for example, it's just 1 pixel difference in the Y. If we right click on it and go to select equal keyframes, what happens? Nothing, because there's no other equal keyframe to this, right? Next, if we right click on this, you can go to select previous keyframe. Right? And that selects all the previous keyframes. If I click here to unselect all those keyframes, I could select this first keyframe, right click and say select following keyframes. It will select all the keyframes after, right? Next, another way to navigate once you have keyframes in your animation is the J and the K keys on your keyboard, right? Now, this will navigate between visible animations. So let me go ahead and hide this right here. If I press K, it's going to go to the end of my timeline because there are no visible keyframes. So I press K, boom, it goes to the end. If I press J, it goes to the beginning. Now, if I twirl open, now I don't have to twirl this open. I can just select this layer, press U on my keyboard, and that will bring up any animated properties that I have. So now if I go ahead and press K on my keyboard, it's going to jump to the first keyframe from where my playhead is. So for example, if I was right here, I press K, it goes there. If I press K, it goes here. And again, if I press K again, it will go to the end. Now, if I'm right here and I press J, it goes to this keyframe, the previous. So anyways, that's a good way to be able to navigate between keyframes, and obviously being able to use keyboard shortcuts will speed up your work and make you more efficient in your animations and your motion graphics. I'm going to right click on this. Here's another important another important value, right, is toggle hold keyframe, right? When you select this, what happens is if we come over here and we make a change to the position of this text, like we bring it here, watch what happens. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up to here. If I play from this point, right, I'll just play from the beginning. We'll see it goes down, then it goes up, then it chills, and boom. As soon as another value occurs, it goes from the hold keyframe and it snaps to whatever this value. It's like an on-off switch, right? That's what a hold keyframe does. Now, obviously, we can create a motion path after this keyframe because this is not a hold keyframe. So if I come here and I drag this, it should animate. No, it's still a hold. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to select these two keyframes, right-click, and then toggle the hold keyframe, right? And now what happens? It's going to come from here, from this hold keyframe. When I press spacebar, it will jump to this new value, then it will animate to the next value, right? All right, so next, if we right-click, you'll see Rove Across Time. So before I explain what rove across time is, let me show you something else. I'm going to make sure that I come here. I'm going to drag my playhead to the beginning. I'm going to click on the stopwatch, which will get rid of all the animation, leaving the value that I was currently at, wherever the playhead was, right? This was the value. So I'm going to create a keyframe by clicking on the stopwatch, enabling that. I'll move forward in time, maybe right here, and then I'm going to click, drag the text down, and bring it right there, right? Now, if I go ahead and bring the playhead to the beginning and I press spacebar, you'll notice that this goes from the first keyframe to the last at the same speed. It's linear, right? What if you wanted it to slowly come into the next keyframe? I was going to give it away, right? What if you wanted it to ease into the next keyframe, right? What we could do is right-click on this, go to Keyframe Assistant, and then you're not seeing this on your screen, but we have this 4th, 5th, and 6th option down are easy ease in, and easy ease out. Easy ease means ease in and ease out of this keyframe. Right now, there's no animation after this keyframe. So all that matters is what happens coming into this keyframe. So for example, if we right click and we go to Keyframe Assistant and we say easy ease in, what's going to happen is as it gets to this keyframe, it's going to slow down. Boom. It will slow down at that last part, right? Now I'm going to show you, we're going to verify this with the graph editor in a second, but if I had just selected this keyframe and said easy ease out, nothing, well, it's still set to easy ease in, huh? So it's the same thing as selecting easy ease, right? So now it's going to ease in and it would ease out also if there was another parameter it was animating to. So that's easy ease. What happens if you have a third property? So we're going to bring this over, and when we get here, now we want the text to move to another location. I'm just going to move this over here to the right. So if I play this, this is what it looks like. Notice what happened, right? When it got to this, from this keyframe and it got here, it eased into it, but it stops. It stops for a second at this value, and then it eases out and it comes here. What if I just want this to be fluid? And you can tell these are easy ease keyframes because they kind of look like, I guess, an hourglass, right? But what if I just wanted from the first keyframe to the last keyframe to be a smooth animation? If I wanted that, I would select these 3 keyframes. Now keep in mind, again, you have to have at least 3 keyframes to do this. You also need to select them, and when you right click on them, you could go to rove across time. Rove across time says, I want this to be smooth from the first one to whatever the last one you selected is. So you'll notice there won't be a stop in the middle now. Watch this. That animation is smooth from the beginning to the last one. You'll notice there's an easy ease happening on this last keyframe. There's no easy ease in this first one or easy ease out. So what happens is it starts immediately, and the movement from this keyframe to this keyframe is smooth, meaning equidistant, right? As far as each keyframe is concerned. So pretty smooth animation. If we wanted to ease out of this, we could right click on this keyframe, go to Keyframe Assistant, and say easy ease out. Now when we go ahead and play, it looks like this. And then slows into that keyframe. So perfect. So now you guys are getting a hang of some of this information. Let's see. If we right click on this, am I missing some things to tell you? Inside here, it depends. Like you see right here, convert audio to keyframes. And that's exactly why I have whoosh here, right? If I bring this into my layer palette right here, and if I bring it back to the beginning and press the spacebar, boom, it's got that whooshing sound, right? Anyway, so what we can do is right click on this, not this, I'm sorry. If we can, actually, yeah, right click, we go to, where is it? Maybe it's up here in animation, go to Keyframe Assistant and convert audio to keyframes. And when we do that, what happens is it creates a new layer with keyframes. If we press U to show, it has a left channel, a right channel, and both channels. These keyframes can be used to animate something. And what are they? Amplitude is the loudness differences in the audio file, right? Meaning how quiet or how loud something is. So if we want to animate the FordeeTV position, let's go ahead and bring our playhead to the beginning, which it is. I'm going to click on the stopwatch, and now nothing is animated, right? I'm going to show you something that starts to get a little advanced. We're not going to go into expressions in this tutorial, but in order to create an expression, you have to Option or Alt click on the stopwatch, and it brings up the ability to type in. And funny enough, it's called espresso, right? Or expressions. I'm sorry, espresso. See, I want coffee. Anyway, we don't actually have to type an expression here. What we can do is link. This little pick whip or whatever is what is used to say that we want to use the value of something else to control this value, right? So the position of FordeeTV, if we click on the pick whip and then we hold our shift button, shift key down on our keyboard and let go on the slider, it basically adds that information for us here, and then we can click away. And now when we go ahead and press the space bar, you'll notice that number one, the text is way up there, right? So let's go back to the beginning and let's using our arrows bring this down, right? So come on, baby, come down for us. And it's not wanting to come down. So let's use this here, and that's not working either. Let's go ahead and zoom out. We should be able to drag this text down here. Come on. It doesn't want to do it. And I guess that's because it's because of the expression. So let's use the pan behind tool. Let's click here. And if we change where this the anchor point is, of course the text is animated in reference to the anchor point, so we can get it to show. Because the point of this, what I wanted to show you, is that you can use an audio file to drive animation, right? So I'll go ahead and press spacebar now. And you'll notice that whoosh sound is now animating the movement of this FordeeTV, kind of like in a squiggly way, if you will, right? Anyway, I'll select the audio amplitude layer. I'll press delete on my keyboard. I'll come over here to the whoosh. We don't need that either. And it's saying right here, our project contains an expression error. That's because we're referencing a layer that no longer exists. If we click on this stopwatch twice, we should be able to turn off this, but we are not. So let's go ahead and remove this information and now click away, and we should be fine, right? Again, expressions are a bit more advanced. Maybe we'll go into that in an intermediate or advanced tutorial on After Effects, but I just wanted to show you how you could drive your audio or your keyframes that you extracted from an audio file for another layer, right? All right, let me look at my notes real quick and see what am I missing, huh? So let's go ahead and right click on FordeeTV right here. Well, actually what we want to do is right click on the position, and we want to go to reset. And this should show us where we are here. Next, notice that you see the anchor point is in the center. We want it to be in the center of the text. So with the pan behind tool selected, let's go ahead and drag it to the center of the text. And now what we can do is right click on the position and go to reset. And that should pop this up over here. Now, if we want this to be in the center, we can click on the line, go over here, and now it's back here in the center, right? So we're back to our text with no animations, etc. What I want to do is first, I want to move this anchor point to the center of the text. After I do that, let's go ahead and press R after highlighting the text layer to bring up our rotation. Notice where my playhead is here, right? Let's bring it back to the beginning. We'll click on the stopwatch to enable the animation for rotation. Next, we'll drag our playhead maybe out to 2 seconds, and at 2 seconds, we'll go ahead and just type the number 2. And what that says when I press enter is that when from the first or 0 frame to the 2 seconds in, I want you to spin twice, right? If I play this, whoa, so cool. Anyway, what I want to show you now is the graph editor. If you come over here and you click on this, this opens the graph editor. And what this is going to allow you to do is make further changes to your keyframes in a more precise way, or a more detailed way, if you will, right? The first button right here in the graph editor. And let's go over the buttons first, and then we'll talk about making changes to the properties. Now, mind you, the graph editor, typically, if I click away, it shows you what is selected. So if I click on rotation, it shows me the value of the rotation, right? Over here, this eyeball has 3 options: show selected properties, which is by default set. And right now it's showing us what is selected, right? If I always wanted to show anything that's animated, I could select the next option below, which you're not seeing on your screen, but it says show animated properties. When I select this, if I click on anything, it should show all animated properties, right? Next, I'm going to uncheck that. and there's one more item, show graph editor set, which, yeah, I never used that, so I'm not sure, huh? Next, over here, we have auto select graph type, which is not currently enabled. The next thing that's able is edit value graph. Value graph depends on what's being animated. Right now, we're animating rotation, and rotation is a value, right? There is no speed associated with rotation. If we come back over here, the third option is edit speed graph. If we were animating position, then the position has speed. Going from point A to point B is a speed, right? So if you select the first thing, it's going to best guess what to select, or you can switch between the two yourself, edit the value or the speed, etc. Next, you can show different things like waveforms, layer markers, etc., and so forth. Next, it depends if there are more than one, well, as long as you select more than one keyframe, what's going to happen when you have this box selected is it's going to give you a bounding box. And what this bounding box allows you to do is make changes to this animation like a bounding box, like if you were transforming text in Photoshop. So if I wanted to change like how many rotations this take, if I bring this up over here, you're going to see that now when I press play, it goes more than 2 times in the animation, right? If I continue to drag this further up, it goes way more than 2 times. This should be over 3, right? Or 4. Anyways, don't ask me to do math. I'm still low on sleep, guys. Anyway, one thing that you'll notice, as I drag this up, what happened? It resized. It's still showing 0 down here, but it's showing whatever the totality is, right? So if I drag this down, notice it resizes this window, and that's because this button is checked here. You see auto zoom graph height. If I turn this off and I drag this up, now you don't see the 0 anymore. But if I click this on again, it will resize it for that. What if I wanted to show everything here? By the way, we skipped over snapping. Snapping just means snap to certain points, huh? So if I drag this over, it's not snapping to anything. If I turn on snap, it's going to snap to different points in time. It's going to snap it to different important values and so forth, right? Next, you're going to see 2 buttons over here. This one is fit selection to view. So because I have rotation selected, if I click on that, it is going to fill it up in my entire view, right? The next one is fit all graphs to view. We don't have a second graph, so why don't we make one? I'll bring my playhead to the beginning right here. I'll press Shift and P on my, actually instead of position, I'll press Shift P again to get rid of it. I'll press Shift S to bring up scale. My playhead is at 0. I'm going to turn on animation by clicking on this the stopwatch right here. I'm going to move forward to, I don't know, it was supposed to be 2 seconds, right? So it's right about here. And then I'm going to make this to be, I don't know, let's make it 100. Well, actually, so we created a keyframe here because we made that. But let's go to 1 second. We'll set this to 200. And then we'll come over here to the end, and we'll set this back to 100. So what's going to happen is it's going to go from 100%, and at 2 seconds will be 200%, and then go back to 100%. So let's preview this animation by pressing spacebar. Whoa! By the way, sound effects included by me, yours truly, huh? Anyways, I'll bring the playhead back to the beginning. And now if I want to see both of these properties, what I could do is press Shift on my keyboard and select rotation. Now we see keyframes of the rotation and the scale, the red being the scale, and you can see the color coding over here along with this, right? So now if we want to fit all graphs, so okay, you know what I did is I made the scale stop at 2 seconds also. But let's say if we drag this over to be further in time, and now of course we've changed more than one value, but if I press Shift, it locks itself to that rotational value, and it just moves the keyframe further out, right? So now if I select scale, and then I press this first one, it fills our view with the length of those properties. If I select the second one, is going to show the properties of the scale and the rotation, right? So rotation, I think, was the longest. If I select scale right here, I'm sorry, and press this, now it fills the window with this. If I hold Shift to select the rotation as well, and I want to show both, I then click on this button again, huh? Okay, so that's what that does. This next button, which is grayed out, is to separate dimensions. However, right now we cannot separate dimensions because we don't have position animated. So let's highlight the layer 40TV, press Shift P on our keyboard, and again, at frame 0, what we are going to do, make sure we're there, we're going to turn on animation, and then we are going to move forward in time, maybe to, again, 2 seconds. Where is it? Right here. And we are going to click, and we are going to drag this down. Let's just change the Y property, something like that, right? So now, if we go ahead and scrub through our time, you'll notice that the text moves down also. So if we have the position property selected, we'll look down over here. If we click, oh, now we can click on this button. And what it's going to do is it's going to separate our X and Y animations, right? And right now, you'll notice that the red is a flat line. It's a flat line because we didn't change the text moving left to right. We only changed it in the Y property moving up and down, but it's showing these two things separately. So if we wanted to make changes, for example, to our X, we can do that. We could drag this over here. There are Bezier handles here too, right? And so we can drag them up or down, etc., and that will change the path of the animation over that value, right? So the next bunch of keyframes, right, or the next bunch of options allow us to basically edit the way these keyframes are. So, for example, if we bring our playhead here and we make a change to the X value, something like that, notice that this has Bezier handles, right? If I wanted to make this linear, what I could do is click on this and it will make this a linear keyframe. If I want to turn it back to Bezier, you can click here. This just changes, this gives you the option to add easy ease. To be honest, I don't use these because you can do this yourself. Like if I want to make something that's linear, so for example, if this is a linear keyframe, if I want to change this to a Bezier, all I do is see when I press Option on my keyboard or Alt, you can click and drag the handles out yourself. Going down here just seems like a waste. If I want to select something to be easy ease, all I have to do is right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, and I could come here and say easy ease in, easy ease, etc. Now obviously, maybe this would be, I don't know if it would be faster. I'm just so used to right-clicking on going to Keyframe Assistant and selecting Easy Ease, right? And in fact, whether I'm working in the graph editor or I'm working outside of the graph editor, it's super easy, right? Anyways, so that's the graph editor. It gives you an ability to make changes and dial in the way you transition from one keyframe to another by extending these handles, right? So for example, we've got way too much stuff going on right now, right? So let's go back to the beginning. Let's go ahead and click on all those stopwatches to get rid of them, right? Next, let's just come over here to the X position and let's turn on the stopwatch for that. We'll go forward in time and then we're going to move this or we're going to make a change to this text like this. And now we have these two keyframes here. If I go ahead and play this out by pressing spacebar, it linearly moves between one keyframe and the next, and we can change that. If we right-click on, actually, if we just press Option and we click on this, we can bring up the Bezier handle, and now look what's going to happen. It's going to come, and this is changing its path, because right now we are only messing with the position of X. When I drag this up, it means that it's going to overshoot its final destination, right? So if you watch this, what happens is it passes where it's supposed to end, and then it falls back and comes into place. Obviously, if you understand the principles of animation, the anticipation and the follow-through will be achieved by being able to do these things. Now, if you don't understand those things, I recommend looking up Principles of Animation. Disney has taught, they're the ones who wrote those out in the beginning, and understanding these principles of animations will help your animations look better, but I think it's outside the scope of this video. If there's enough of you who want me to make a video on the principles of animation, I'd be happy to do so. All right, so now we have an idea how to create animations, how to edit keyframes, how to move them, how to select them, how to display them, how to work in the graph editor. What are we missing, baby? You know what we're missing? Our animation presets. So let's go ahead and turn off the animation for the X position. I'm going to go ahead and right-click. Actually, I'm going to bring up the transform properties, and I'm going to reset everything, right? Now FordeeTV is back just the way it would have been when it was written. I'll come over to the line. I'll just go ahead and center this both in vertical and horizontal, and I'll close all this stuff out. over here in my in the frame that shows the effects and presets. If you don't see that, click on Window and find effects and presets, right? And now when that opens up, I'm going to go ahead and click that away. The first option in here are animation presets, right? I'll click on this arrow to open them up, and you have your presets here, right? There are a lot of different types of presets. Some of these presets will create things. Some of them will modify things. It is impossible for me to go over all of them, so we're just going to touch on a couple. So right now we have a text layer, right? The FordeeTV. You'll notice in the animation presets, there is a text folder. If I click on the arrow here, you'll see that there are a bunch of different things that we can do to our text that are already there, right? So let's say we want to go to scale. What if we want to scale up? Now, very, very important. See, I just noticed where my playhead is. Wherever we apply this to, it is going to create keyframes to animate whatever this is based on where your playhead is. So if I go ahead and click on scale, double click on scale up, or I drag scale up over here to FordeeTV, watch what happens. Nothing happens until where my playhead was, and now boom, it scales up, right? So if I press Apple Z to undo, I bring my playhead to the beginning, and then I bring scale up over on top of FordeeTV, and I press spacebar, you're going to see that it created that scale up animation. In fact, we can go ahead and select the layer, press U on our keyboard, and you'll see that it just created these two keyframes. And you'll say, wait a second, what if this happened too slow? Press U on your keyboard, show the keyframes, and then drag this over. And now let's go ahead and press play or spacebar. Boom, a lot faster. Hey, if you want to make it faster, drag it even closer. So now, pop, etc. So this is one example. This is just a scale up. What if we want to add a blur? We'll come over here to blurs, and let's say we want to, I don't know, let's create, I don't know, Jiggy. Let's go ahead and drag that on. And again, look what I'm about to do. I'm not going to do it. I'll let go. Let's move our playhead to the beginning, and let's bring Jiggy on top of the FordeeTV text layer. I'll press spacebar. And those sound effects, right? That's why you watch this channel. Anyways, I'll bring the playhead to the beginning, and you'll see that I have a Jiggy animator over here. Obviously, you could create these animations yourself. You don't have to use these animation presets. They are to make your life easier, faster, etc. But wait, there's more. What's that guy, the Mr. Clean, or I don't know, the ShamWow, or I don't know who it was. Anyways, let's scroll back up, right? So we are playing with text here, and let's just bring this so you can see the FordeeTV. And what we can do are their backgrounds, for example. If I click on the arrow right here, let's say that we want to bring this germs in. All we have to do is make sure FordeeTV is not selected. If FordeeTV is selected, sometimes some of these things are going to apply to what's selected. So if I double click, it applied this background to the text layer. If I press Command Z or Control Z on a PC, it undoes that action. If I click away from FordeeTV and I double click on germs, what it did is it applied this layer here. Now remember, my playhead is here. That means there's going to be zero animation until my playhead hits. Now when I press spacebar, it will start to animate this, and a bit slow, huh? And we're still at 50%. Let's fit this puppy up. I don't know why I forget to do that, huh? This is a small, guys, my brain, I'm sorry. It's lack of sleep, you know, and this is why I took some time to create this video, because I'm like, hey, with 4 or 5 hours of sleep, the video is not going to be good enough in my mind, right? And I'm for sure hard on myself. I like these videos to be clean, coherent. I want to make sure you guys learn the information. Anyways, enough excuses, right? So if I press Apple Z on my keyboard, I go back to the beginning, and let's add something different, right? Like maybe green crystals. I'll double click, it creates this. Now when I press spacebar, boom, we have, let's drop this down to maybe a quarter just so it renders a bit quicker. And so now we have this animated green crystals happening, right? We can bring the text on top of the solid layer by dragging up, and again, press spacebar. And now we have this jittery text on top of this background, and really all we had to do was type this text in. right? Let me just show you how quick that is. I'm going to select both these layers by having one selected, holding shift, clicking on the other, pressing delete on my keyboard, and then let's come over here and find something, right? Like maybe circuit. Let's make sure our playhead's at the beginning because I always forget that. And let's double click on circuit. Now we have this circuit, and watch, it's going to grow on our screen, and it's going to go through some evolution of that fractal noise, right? Next, I'm going to click on the text tool over here with my playhead at the beginning. I'm going to click and I'm going to type in FordeeTV. Then I'm going to click on the arrow here. I'll select align, vertical and horizontal align. I'll come back to effects and presets. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the arrow next to backgrounds to close that up. Next, what I want to do is find behaviors. And maybe what I want to happen here is I want to wiggle my position. I'm going to drag that on top of FordeeTV. And now when I play, you're going to see that it just starts moving around, and maybe that's not enough. I'm going to go ahead and drag my playhead to the beginning. I'm going to close out the behaviors. I'm going to come down to text, and I'm going to say, you know what I want you to do? I want you to blur, and I want you to be foggy. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that on top of FordeeTV. I'll press the space bar, and now boom, right? What did that take? It took no time at all. Right? This is the power of these animation presets. And you're saying, but wait, what if they don't have something I want? You see right here under user presets, this is where you can add your own presets. So let's go ahead and create an animation preset. Super simple, huh? Over here in our comp, I'll select the first layer, hold shift on my keyboard, select the second layer, press delete on my keyboard, they're gone, right? I'm going to go ahead and zoom out in my timeline right here so I can see the whole thing. I'll go to the beginning, and let's go ahead and just create a shape. So I'm going to take my shape tool. It's on the ellipse, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag. If I press shift on my keyboard, it constrains it to a circle, and boom, now we have this shape that's a circle, right? In fact, let's get crazy. Let me delete this. Let's make a star, right? Because who doesn't like stars? So I'm going to click, I'm going to drag, I'm going to press the space bar to reposition, and boom, now we have this cool star. I pressed the space bar also, so it started moving the playhead. I'll drag it back to the beginning, and let's do a couple things, right? Number one, at frame 0, right? We're going to go ahead and press P on our keyboard to bring up position. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to drag or change my place and time to 4 seconds, and then I'm going to use the selection tool, selecting and moving the star down here, right? So now all we do is we have this animation of the star going from the top left corner to the bottom right corner. Okay, pretty cool, right? Let's come over here to our effects and presets and type in glow. After we do that, we'll find stylized glow. We'll drag this on top of the shape layer. And now what I want to do at frame 0 is I'm going to create an animation of the glow intensity, right? So I'll click on it right here. I'll drag this out maybe to 2 seconds. I don't know. And then let's bump this up a bit to maybe set it to 5 or 15. Okay, that's not looking crazy enough, so probably we have to bring the radius up. So I'm going to press Command Z to undo that. I'll bring my playhead back to the beginning. I'll click on the stopwatch for the radius at 10, and then I'm going to bring this over here to the same area. And remember, if I click and drag, if I press the shift while I'm doing this, it's going to snap to the keyframe. Next, we can bump this up like this. And now, if we go ahead and drag this, bring our playhead back to the beginning and press spacebar, you'll see that we've animated the glow, we've animated some keyframes with position. Awesome, right? What if we want to save this? Now, granted, this is super simple. This is super easy. Probably would never use this in another project. But let's say you put time into it and you made this super cool animation. It doesn't have to be a shape. It could be text. It could be whatever you want. You used a bunch of effects, etc. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select this, the properties, and I'm going to see that I have my glow here. I have my position here. If I press shift and I click on I can even click on transform, and then I come over here and I press shift on the polystar. Now I have the polystar selected, I have the glow selected, and I have the transform selected. I don't need this position to be selected because I selected transform. That's fine. If I go up here to the animation menu, I could save animation presets. When I go ahead and do this, I'm going to call this my cool star, right? I'm going to go ahead and press save, and bam. Now, if I go ahead and I hide this layer, right? I come over here to my effects and presets, and I start typing in cool, which is what we called it, cool star. I can double click on this, right? And when I double click on this, I'm going to press Command Z to undo that. The problem is we have this shape layer selected. I'm going to click away. Now I'm going to double click, and what happens? It created a new layer. Let me prove it to you. Let me get rid of both of them. I'll press delete on my keyboard. I'll come over here to cool star. I'll double click, and you'll notice that what's going on here. First off, I had my playhead here, so it started here. Let's press Command Z. Oof, I know that's my big issue, huh? Playhead at the beginning, double click, cool star, boom, it's there. If we press the space bar, we have the exact same animation, baby. It is moving the star in the position that we had set. It created the star at the size that we had selected, and it's animating the glow properties that we selected. How powerful is that? How amazing is that? So that's how you create an animation preset. It can be used for shapes. It can be used for text. It does not have to include shape or text. What if it's just a bunch of different effects that you normally apply to one of your clips? Maybe it's the color correction added with some sharpening, with some etc., 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 a vignette, whatever, and this is something you apply to most of your clips. Create an animation preset, and then it's a simple double click, either applying it to a layer or creating a layer. It depends, right? It depends what you're saving. So if it was just a bunch of effects, then you'd want to make sure you select the layer and then double click on it to apply it to that layer, because it's just effects, right? So guys, I hope you found this tutorial helpful. I hope I didn't ramble on too much. I apologize. This lack of sleep is really getting me, but I'm putting some effort to make some changes to that. I need to get back on YouTube, making consistently several videos a week. That's the goal. I have super cool ideas. I need to finish this beginner series because I have so many awesome intermediate, advanced ideas to share with you. I need to start making some more Cinema 4D stuff. In fact, in my head, I have this Cinema 4D tutorial. I want to show how to create volumetric modeling for 3D printing and show you guys how to make a piece of jewelry, for example, with a 3D printer, modeling in Cinema 4D, etc., etc. Anyways, if you like this video, if you found it helpful, please like, share, subscribe, share it with your friends, guys. It would mean the world to me. Until next time, I'm out.